Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. I don't know what that was. Hey, everybody. Welcome to FantasyGuru.com's Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FG. I'm hearing things in the background. I don't know. You guys are you all hearing things in the background? I don't know. Maybe that's just me and I got it set up wrong. Let me do a quick check here. Boom, 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 boom. I don't know what that is. We'll figure it out here. Hopefully everything's good on your end. I am Ray Flowers again of FantasyGuru.com. Thanks for joining me today. Really appreciate it. We're with you every day, Monday through Friday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We usually go about an hour, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little bit more. On Wednesdays, I'm with Jeff Mans on the Elite Sports Show. And usually Justin Fensterman is here with you. Now, you might be saying that's not what's happening, and it's a Wednesday, Ray. Yeah, you're right. Justin's still away for the birth of his child. He should be back next Wednesday. So next week, we'll go back to Justin hosting Wednesdays. I'll be here Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. This week, as in the last 2 weeks, I'm doing all 5 days. Obviously, here today, we'll be with you the next 2 days this week as well. Jeff Mann's Elite Sports Show is on an hour after we end here. That show is 2 to 5 Eastern, Monday through Friday on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio on Wednesdays today. I'll be with Jeff. So I'm with Jeff today for an hour. Jeff for 3 hours. After the hour, I'm with you here with that hour spot in between. What are we talking about today? Well, let's throw it up on the screen. We're going to do some baseball talk, some football talk. It is a Wednesday, so Rich Maletto of FantasyGuru.com will join us. Rich, otherwise known as Fantasy Bosco. We'll dive in. We'll talk a little bit about Discord, kind of give some hints and tips, whether you're with us at FantasyGuru.com or just use Discord for some other source. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll dive into some questions. There are a lot of it focusing on veteran players. Matthew Stafford, Adam Thielen, Jake Ferguson, Dallas Goedert. Jake Ferguson's not really a veteran. He's a veteran-ish. Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz, the wide receiver positions of the Broncos and the Steelers. We'll talk about all that with Rich Maletto here in about 25 minutes, halfway through the show. As we do every day, do baseball at the start, half hour football for the second half of the show. Again, this will change next. I don't think it'll change next week because next week's week one in the NFL season. We'll go one more week with this schedule, but starting in week 2 or the day after the completion of week 1 Sunday, so 10 days from now, on Mondays we're going to go to all football. So Mondays we won't have baseball. We won't be continuing to review the waiver wire stuff. We'll be reviewing what happened over the weekend in football, and then we'll do the half-hour football, baseball thing Tuesday through Friday. Before we get to any of that, we'll also talk some baseball here. We got a promising youngster getting called up. One of the other promising youngsters who's been called up will review his performance. Martin Perez, Luis Heel, Kyle Bradish. What is going on with the Giants bullpen? Then we'll talk about the offensive side of things, some hot players, some cold players, kind of a group of guys other than Will Smith that, maybe we're looking to utilize here down the stretch. Dylan Moore, Gabriel, Moreno, Nolan, Gorman, Matt Wallner, Jakob, Marsee, Colt, Keith, and Harrison Bader. On the show today, I see questions here. That was awesome. Oh, thanks, Ravi. I don't know. We just had things going and going and going. I'm not really sure what was going on there. Marquis says there's no background. I'm looking at the background, Mark, so hopefully you can see it because I can see it. Angela says it looks good. I don't know what's going on. Hopefully we're here and we're all having fun here on the show. Let's just say that. I don't know. It is Fantasy Sports Daily, and this show is available to you in a variety of settings. 1, go to fantasyguru.com. At the top of the page, click that toolbar, the Elite Plus tab. Find this show and all the other shows we have on the Elite Plus network. Easy. 2, wherever you listen to podcasts, type in Fantasy Sports Daily. 3, you can watch us live or on demand at any point in the day, following days, weeks, all that kind of stuff. You can go back and look at old shows. But if you're watching us live, you can leave comments and questions as we're discussing here already and address them on the show in 3 different places. YouTube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ, and Twitter X @FantasyGuruSite. Okay. Before we get to any of that, by the way, for those people asking about Drafters.com, Drafters.com is still doing their best ball tournament. Still a scenario. Oh, Mark saying that there's no background noise. Gotcha, Mark. So thank you for letting me know that. I appreciate it. I understand. Now I get what you were saying. Thank you for the clarification. Drafters.com, still going on, folks. Still massive overlay, still an opportunity to win. We've been doing tons of draft. The staff over at fantasyguru.com, led by Jeff Vance, has been doing drafts basically almost on the hour. Kind of did that all weekend long. The promo code right now to get a reload bonus of 20% is Elite Reload 20. All one word, Elite Reload 20. Now, if you've already used a promo code and reloaded, I don't think this is going to work. So don't, you used one a week and a half ago, you're not going to be able to use this one again. But if you haven't re-upped at Drafters, remember there's massive overlay, so your odds of winning are much better. They're not going to sell out their contest. Elite Reload 20. Okay. You deposit $200, you get a $40 bonus. Pretty good there too. And so if you get 10 entries with the flash bonus weekend, you also get 2 free. So there's a lot of opportunities. If you have any more questions about this, send a note to support@fantasyguru.com or hit us up in Discord and ask more questions about that. But again, the promo code at drafters.com is Elite Reload 20. Give that a shot. Okay, the Mets are calling up their top pitching prospect, Jonah Tong, according to Will Salmon of The Athletic. He has been fantastic. He started the year as a solid prospect, and as the year has gone on, Tong has ascended rapidly the rankings everywhere across the industry. He's got 179 strikeouts in 113 innings. And he's likely to make his debut on Friday against the Marlins. Now, 6-man rotation, 5-man rotation, one-time start. It's unclear what Tong's workload is going to be. But I was looking at some analysis of him last night, trying to get a better handle on where this youngster is going to be. Because, again, the stuff is really impressive, and the performance has been balls great. There's a lot of things going on here. He has got what we call head snap. He basically does a lot of things wrong. He tilts way too far with his upper torso. Well, actually, it's this way because he's right-handed. No, wait, it would be this way. Tilts too far with his torso. And then he doesn't look at home plate. He's staring out into space. Maybe he's staring at first base when he actually releases the ball. Because of the tilt, his arm angle is pretty normal. But because he tilts so much, his arm was almost straight up. So he's going to have one of the higher release points in the game. So it gives him a little bit of funk. He lands oddly on his front foot. It's pointed in the wrong direction. It's not pointed toward home plate. He also has a little bit of a crossfire motion that kind of spins on his heel. Bottom line, his mechanics are funky. And I've seen some people comp him to Tim Lincecum. The bottom line is he's difficult to hit because of all this funk. At the same time, all this funk, it's not ideal. He doesn't have a traditional motion. There's obviously some growing concerns about control. There's some concerns about consistency. But this year it's worked. And the real question is when you have this much funk going on, and guys do crazy. Remember Tony Batista and the way he used to hit? He had his hands down at his knees and he was standing, looking at the pitch. Like, you can do things differently. But no pitching coach in the world is going to teach you to do what Jonah Tong does, right? That's not traditional. Is that going to be an impediment to success? No idea. Again, he's done a very good job this season. He's got a 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio, tons of strikeouts, 47 walks in 113 innings. Something to work on. But he should be added right now if he's available in your leagues. There's uncertainty with, how many starts he's going to make, all that kind of stuff. But the stuff is we're dreaming on, and he's pitched very well this season despite the concerns that I laid out. Jakob Misiorowski, 10 strikeouts over 5 innings, gave up 3 runs yesterday against the Diamondbacks. Only walked one guy, kind of back at it. And Misiorowski, after that dynamic start, he hasn't floundered, but he's kind of stabilized, slowed down a little bit. He's got a 4.3 ERA, which is not really indicative of the talent. The 1-1 whip makes sense, right? 65 strikeouts in 43 innings is still a dynamic mark. He's facing the Blue Jays in his next outing on Sunday. That's a challenging matchup, especially with Vladimir Guerrero back. Bichette's killing it. Springer's killing it. This is not an easy lineup to pitch to. So Misiorowski will go for it against the Blue Jays here. And at this point in time, it's starting to feel like he's just going to make starts the rest of the way. And there's going to be no skipping starts. There's going to be no holding him down. There's going to be no shutting him down. None of that kind of stuff. We'll continue to monitor this because there's always a chance. Unfortunately, it might happen after the game where they say, well, we were only going to pitch him 75 pitches today anyway. And we have seen the Brewers do this where he's struggled a little bit in an inning, thrown 35 pitches in an inning, and they just pull him. They don't want him to get that workload too high. So Misiorowski was a very strong performer last night. The strikeouts are going to be there. The ratios should be very solid. But again, a difficult matchup in Toronto for the power righty of the Brewers. Now, we go from a power righty who's young, who's the star of the future, to a soft-tossing lefty who was never a star, but who's hung around for an awful long time. And I'm not talking about Patrick Corbin, who threw 8 shutout innings last night. I'm talking about Martin Perez. Now, Martin Perez last night struck out 5, 7 innings of shutout baseball, so 1 fewer inning of shutout ball than Patrick Corbin. I don't think there was any way in 2025 I'd be saying these two guys threw 15 shutout innings. That's just absurd. All of that with Perez, you look at his numbers, all of a sudden the area is 202, and the whip is under 1. My answer is no. Just no. That's not who he is. That's not who he's going to be. He faces the Yankees next. No. There are guys to take chances on, and there are matches to take chances on those guys. And again, the numbers suggest take a chance on me. But no. Can't do it. No Martin Perez against the Yankees. We're not doing that. I'm looking. He's got the best strikeout minus walk rate of his career right now. 13.6%. It's not even league average. And that's the best mark in his career. And his career began in 2012. Give the guy mad props. I mean, he's thrown 1,600 innings in the big leagues, and it's all smoke and mirrors. His career whip is 143. Anyway, smoke and mirrors. Great effort last night. You missed it. Don't chase it. We're not starting Martin Perez against the Yankees. Now, speaking of the Yankees, Luis Gil gave up 1 run over 5 innings against the Nationals through 92 pitches. So he's establishing himself workload-wise, and he's establishing himself, or trying to, performance-wise, in the big leagues this year after missing all that time with injury. The problem with Gil is, yet again, 4 walks in 5 innings. That's now 9 walks his last 10 innings. That's 6.4 walks per 9 innings. That doesn't work, period. It just doesn't work. Now, the problem that you have to worry about with Gil, if you're going to start him next time out, is that after giving up 5 runs in his first outing, he's given up 2, 1, 2, 1. Again, that's not possible long-term when you're walking almost 6.5 guys per 9 innings. It doesn't work. And in the case of Gil, the stuff is tremendous, but he's well below the league average in first pitch strike rate. His swinging strike rate is in single digits, 9.2%. That's terrible for a guy that, we're looking at to give us a lot of strikeouts. His O swing rate, the ability to get guys to chase pitches, is 21%. That's terrible. The bottom line is he's not getting ahead in the count enough. It's remarkable he's been striking out a guy in an inning, even with the stuff he has, because he's simply not locating his pitches. And he's not getting ahead in counts, and that's a problem. And right now it's working, quote unquote, right? It's working. But even with it, quote unquote, working, his whip is 1.7. He's walking a really fine line here, and I just don't have confidence in him. I'm not saying that, against the White Sox, you don't pitch him on Sunday. I'm just merely pointing out that, where there's the effort with the 5 or 6 strikeouts and the 1 run on, there's going to be the 9 outs, 7 runs allowed thing. He's got to control the strike zone better. He just hasn't to date after all the missed time for the Yankees. Kyle Bradish. And by the way, for pitching, there's a lot more pitching talk over at fantasyguru.com. I put a Rays Ramblings piece up earlier today because I'm on with Jeff Manns here at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time today. I simply don't have time to do DFS today, so unfortunately I won't be able to do any Rays plays. I'll try to get to a couple of bets. We went 3 for 4 yesterday. I'll try to get to a couple of bets today. Again, that's pretty tight with the way that the day plans out here on Wednesday. When Justin returns next week, that helps out a little bit too on Wednesdays. But no DFS coverage for me today. But I do have the seasonal coverage focusing on pitchers, so check that out over at fantasyguru.com. Kyle Bradish, who we talked about yesterday, was back and looked great. And if you didn't pick up Kyle Bradish yesterday over the weekend, it's now going to be super expensive. 10 strikeouts, give up 2 runs over 6 innings against the Red Sox. And as I said yesterday, I would not have pitched Kyle Bradish against the Red Sox. If you did, you got to win. Even if you didn't and you rostered him, you got to win, because that was a really, really good first effort against a very difficult opponent. So we are now lined up. He's going to face the Padres probably on Monday. Again, not a matchup I like at all, but you're starting him after this effort last night. Again, we'll take a chance on that difficult matchup next week against the Padres, but, for the first time on the hill in 14 months or something like that. Bradish carved him up. He looked sharp. He looked good. The results were there. He had a lot of home run to David Hamilton. How random is that? And Trevor Story, who's gone 2020. But really, that was it. Like, he was in control of that game from start to finish. So Kyle Bradish, thumbs up. Great way to make a statement. Feeling much better about him than Luis Hill at the moment. And we'll see if that's something that continues. By the way, as I noted yesterday, we will have one final update of the rankings on September 1st. All the rankings are redone at fantasyguru.com, part of the seasonal package. So if you still want to get involved for some seasonal help, to read articles, to get the rankings, to ask questions, if you want to play DFS, we have multiple people every day covering DFS. Usually it's me and then one of the other guys. Today it'd just be one of the other guys, but we've got that coverage. The betting market, myself, Ted Schuster, the MLB model, we got that coverage too. So you can send a note to support at fantasyguru.com. One price for the final month of the season. Everything for baseball is one price. And of course, you get the football package. We'll talk more about that later. But just go to FG. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get signed up for any of the packages that you want this season. One final pitcher note to talk about before we move on to some hitting. And then in about 10 or so minutes, talk some football with Rich Maletto. Randy Rodriguez, who's been pitching very well, who had that arm issue that we talked about on Monday, has indeed been placed on the injured list with an elbow sprain. It is unclear how much time he's going to miss. We're at the point of the season for the Giants that, they could start shutting guys down, could try guys in different spots. Ryan Walker, who started as the closer, then lost the closing spot to Duvall, then lost the closing spot to Rodriguez when Duvall was traded to the Yankees. He's back in the ninth inning, had a save last night. So Ryan Walker is the obvious target now to pick up from the Giants. He's pitching fairly effectively as well. The Rodriguez loss is significant because he has been so good this season. 50 appearances, an ERA of 1.7. Again, we just don't know how much time he's going to miss. We'll see. But anyway, Ryan Walker, the guy to own right now with the Giants. On the offensive side of things, the Rangers picked up the sloppy seconds of the Seattle Mariners. Dylan Moore, who qualifies all over the place, signed a minor league contract with the Rangers. Moore, who, if we go back 4 months, was having a great start to the season, and a lot of people got way ahead of themselves with Dylan Moore. Way ahead of themselves, and thought Dylan Moore was somebody that he is not. And Dylan Moore, unfortunately for those folks, became who Dylan Moore is. And that is a guy that has some power, a guy that has some speed, a guy that can play all over the field defensively, but just a very poor hitter. His batting average is down below 200 now. He's one for his last 14, which led to the demotion or the release, I guess. Has played first base, second base, third base at least 15 times each. Probably qualifies at shortstop in most leagues too. And he's played 27 games in the outfield. So he is a perfect AL-only play, giving you the ability to move him around. There's a potential that if he's promoted to the Rangers, that he could be an option in mixed leagues, potentially as your last bench guy. He's not there right now, and obviously his performance has been poor. But note, the Rangers did lose Marcus Semien to that foot injury that we talked about earlier this week, and his season's almost certainly over, the regular season at least, for Marcus Semien. So there's a chance Dylan Moore's involved here. There's a chance. They'll probably go with Ezekiel Duran at second base right now, but just pointing out that Dylan Moore is now part of the Rangers. Gabriel Moreno, who has long been one of my favorites. Gabriel Moreno, who is somebody that we talked about pretty aggressively in the spring. Gabriel Moreno, who has had a disappointing season overall because of injury. Went 2 for 4, had a 3-run home run last night. And Moreno is just a very solid hitter and somebody that's going to continue to be that. He's going to be a catcher, borderline catcher one, I think, for a while now, for a few years at least. It's intriguing to see the power there a little bit right now. Still, it's not his game. He's more of a 275, 12 home run kind of guy. But he has hit 2 home runs in his 4 games since his return. In those 4 games since the return, he's driven in 7 runs as well. He's gone 6 for 16. So he's batting 375. That does get his batting average up to 276 for the season. So the overall numbers of Moreno, that's kind of who he is. But again, he started out very well since he's returned. Adel Castillo has basically been moved to the DH spot for the Diamondbacks. So Moreno should play most days the rest of the way, either as a catcher or as the DH. And he profiles as a catcher one the rest of the way. And he's in a nice little groove here to start the second half. So keep that in mind. Adolis Garcia, going back to the Rangers. Adolis Garcia has not been good this season. I mean, that's just hasn't been good. We can talk all around. He's just not been good. And I know this directly because Ray has Adolis Garcia in Tout Wars. I might have him in another league too. And overall, it's been bleh. Now, he had an ankle issue. Since being activated from the ankle issue, played 4 games. Got a home run, scored 3 runs, driven in 3 runs. All right, here we go. And stolen 3 bases. Now, I don't know what's going on here, okay? But throughout all this mess, throughout all this disaster, throughout a 670 OPS for a guy who's built like a Greek god, he has 17 home runs and 13 steals. He's going to go 2015. And it would not be a stunner. It wouldn't be. Now, again, he hasn't been this guy this season, but it wouldn't be a stunner if he ends up going 25-15. Now, with a 300 on base percentage, with 68 runs scored, like it's not going to be a good season. But Garcia is still in a good lineup. He's still in a good ballpark to hit in. He is better than he has shown to this point of the season. And he's returned from the injured list with a vengeance, stealing bases. So I don't know if he goes all Josh Naylor, and steals a gazillion bases over a 2-week period of time. But keep an eye on Adolis Garcia because, his approach, as we've talked about forever, can lead to long periods of blah. But if he's locked in, it can also lead to periods of success. And we might just be in one of those periods or the start of it, fingers crossed, right now. Nolan Gorman had a 2-run home run on Tuesday night against the Pirates. Gorman is kind of like, I think it's not a bad comp to say he's basically Adolis Garcia offensively, but with no steals. And he's an infielder. So, right now his batting average 228 is very similar to Garcia. His OPS is actually 70 points better. It's 755. Gorman qualifies at second base in every league. He qualifies at third base in every league. He's played both of those spots at least 25 times this season. So he's got multi-position eligibility. He really should be a platoon guy, really shouldn't be facing lefties the majority of the time, but he's going to play a lot down the stretch. He should play most days against righties down the stretch for the Cardinals. And while his production of late is not stupendous, it does deserve to be pointed out. He's got 3 home runs, 8 RBIs, and 8 runs scored in his last 12 games. And over the last month, he's hitting 250 with an 860 OPS. Could he hit 250 the rest of the way with his strikeout woes? Potentially. I wouldn't expect it, but potentially. I'd hope for 235-40. Would it be a stunner if he had an 860 OPS the rest of the way? No, it would be surprising. It wouldn't be a stunner. Nolan Gorman is a legitimate 30 home run threat if he could stay healthy and play every day for a team. Now, it might come with a 228 batting average, right? There are holes in his game, but his dual position flexibility, his power, and the fact that he's in a nice groove now, he's 6 for his last 20. Just pointing him out for those of you looking for a little bit of a boost off the old waiver wire. Matt Wallner, who we had a bet on yesterday, and it hit when he hit that home run late in the game. Matt Wallner hit a home run yesterday, and, he's a really interesting guy. We talked about him earlier this week. I believe we did on the show, right? Doesn't hit lefties, but his numbers against righties are really good. He's got like a 500 slugging percentage against righties in his career. Powers the baseball against righties. He's actually up to 20 home runs. He's only played 85 games. He's up to 20 home runs. Now, his last 5 games, he has 4 home runs, 7 RBIs. He's only at 250. Okay, he's not going to steal bases. The batting average is not going to be good. But he's going to play against righties. He had cleanup last night. And right now, he's got 8 home runs in 68 at-bats, which is excellent. And he's got 4 home runs in the last 20 at-bats, which is stupendous. So Matt Wallner, there's limitations here. But again, we're talking about guys on the waiver wire that could help you out. Matt Wallner is in that list with the way he's swinging the bat right now. Jakob Marsee of the Marlins continues to be fantastic. Wow. If you added him when he came up, and we talked about him on the show, the waiver wire and the whole thing. If any part of this had happened, it would have been a win. But it's all happening. He's got 7 steals in 25 games. Victory. Batting .345 in 25 games. What a victory. He's got 4 home runs in 25 games. Victory. He's got 12 runs scored in 25 games. Victory. He's got 24 RBIs in 25 games. He's been fantastic. He's been a star. Absolute bloody star. And you look at the numbers across the board, and 12% barrel rate's good, 52% hard hit rate's good, 92% exit velocity is good, 21% strikeout rate is solid. Like, you can't expect this to continue. And you can't expect him not to potentially struggle mightily in September when everyone adjusts to him. But my God, has this first month been stupendous. And it's if he does what he did the last 25 games, the final 25 games, he's a league winner. That's the kind of performance. And I hate that term because it's stupid and overused. But that is how he's producing. This guy is producing like a superstar right now. Absolutely tremendous work for Jakob Marsee, even though it's not sustainable in any form. He can run, but even his current steal pace is out of this world. Colt Keith went 3 for 5 with a home run last night. Colt Keith is always has been kind of one of these on-base percentage darlings, hitting 260, 430 slugging percentage. But he has a 343 on-base percentage. And he's playing on a consistent basis now. He finally found a way into the lineup on a consistent basis for the Tigers by being flexible. 18 games at first, 26 at second, 26 at third. He plays first base 2 more times. That's 3 positions that he'll qualify in every league. So that'll be 20 games played. I know many leagues are 15, some are 10. But the fact is, he's just been very effective. And even when he struggles to produce fantasy numbers, he still takes walks and still gets on base, right? And if you look at his performance over the last month, 4 home runs, 15 runs scored, 320 batting average, and a 930 OPS. None of that is real, right? Just like Jakob Marsee, none of that is real. But if you look at the last 2 weeks, batting 270 with an 847 OPS. I mean, the bottom line is multi-position, likely tri-position almost everywhere is Colt Keith. He's in the lineup almost every single day, and he's producing. And he's a guy that on RT Sports at least is owned in 14% of leagues. So you might want to check out the waiver wire. Will Smith is the only guy on this list that's really good. That was expected to be good. That's a star level player. I just wanted to highlight him because it's like we talk about a lot of guys, and Will Smith, he's 16 home runs. He's driven in 59. We kind of go, home. Going 20-75 as a catcher is not easy anymore, number one. Number two, he'd be doing that. He's basically like 2 base hits, 3 base hits away from a 300, 400, 500 slash line. And when we say 300, 400, 500, that's Hall of Fame. If you go 300, 400, 500 at any position on the field, you're going to be somebody that could potentially be in the Hall of Fame. He's doing it as a catcher this year. So mad shout out to Will Smith. He's getting kind of lost with all the other Dodger greatness, but he's been tremendous. And then finally, before we talk some football with Rich Maletto, Harrison Bader last night went 3 for 4, had a home run. He has been very good since the trade deadline. He's actually hitting 288 with a 386 on base percentage and a 441 slugging percentage. He's gonna fade, right? This is not who he is. There's always stretches. Everyone raise your hand if you've never had Harrison Bader on your team. Everyone's hands down because everyone's picked up Harrison Bader at some point over the years. There's that power speed combination, 14 home runs, 10 steals. He's got his batting average up to 263. But again, the last month hitting 314. The last 2 weeks hitting 395 with 1,000 OPS. So he's performing very well for the Phillies right now. He's not owned anywhere. When his production slows, he probably starts to lose a significant amount of playing time. Maybe he becomes a pinch hitter, defensive replacement late in games. So it's kind of dicey. But when a guy goes 12 for 21, as Bader has done here the last week, he deserves a mention. And again, there is power and speed here. They're just holes in his overall game. All right, so there's the talk for baseball today. We'll be back tomorrow to talk some more baseball for the first half hour of the show. In the second half hour of the show, we'll talk some football with Tyler Beaker. We'll follow the same plan on Friday, baseball the first half hour. Second half hour, we'll talk to Russell Clay. But it's a Wednesday. And on Wednesdays, this guy is normally talking to Justin Fensterman, but just as he has the last couple of weeks, he's agreed to join me to talk some football with you here on a Wednesday. And that's Fantasy Bosco, our very own Rich Maletto of FantasyGuru.com. How you doing today, Rich?
Good. How are you, Ray?
I'm doing all right. Hanging in there. We had a little bit of a fun start to the show with some technology and everything, and everyone let me know it was working properly. So I breathed this sigh of relief and was able to feel a little bit better about the show here. I think we've kind of found our groove here the last 20 or so minutes. So glad to bring you in and get that groove going.
Well, I know I'm usually on with Justin, but it's been a real pleasure meeting with you, Ray. So I just wanted to mention that. And boy, there was a lot of news to wake up to this morning. That was for sure. I grabbed my phone after the alarm went off and went, oh, wow. So we got lots of stuff going on. So I'm sure there's lots of things to talk about here.
There are lots of things to talk about. And before we get to some of those storylines, wanted to add, because you brought this up, and for those people that don't know, Rich is kind of the Discord guy over at fantasyguru.com. And I know everyone listening here is not necessarily subscribed to fantasyguru.com. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. Not everyone is necessarily subscribed, but even if you're not with us, you may be on Discord somewhere. So I want to give you a chance, Rich, to kind of talk about Discord. But before we even get to that, kind of searching, right? This is kind of like Google 101 here. Something you and I talk about is people say, well, I know if someone wrote about this, how can I find it? So let's say you're a subscriber at fantasyguru.com. How do I find the article about Trey Benson? How do I find the article about, backfields? How do you do that search over at fantasyguru.com?
Well, there's a couple of easy ways to do it. We brought the search tool back. So shout out to the staff that brought it back. There was lots of us asking for that. There's a little magnifying glass in the top right corner of the page, and you can go up there, type in topics, players' names, authors, whatever, and you'd be shocked at what pulls up, right? One of the things I've done, though, if it's really simple, I go to a Google, type in Fantasy Guru as one word, and the topic or the article that I remember reading or something like that. And honestly, I enjoy doing it that way because oftentimes we have articles that make a replay, right? Like Armando does a couple of articles every year. You do a couple of articles every year. The running back PPR myth, for example, right? So you update. It's not that you just copy and paste it and spit it back out year after year. You update it. I like looking at past year's articles. I like looking at the 2025 one, the 2024 one. So I'll do it through Google. And, when you go to the URL right at the top, we have the years on there. So one thing you can do is just change the year if you want to see an older article. And I think it's relevant because things evolve, things change, right? I mean, whether it's fantasy, whether it's life, whatever. So, did you change your opinion on the RP or the PPR running back myth? Or is there more data you found even recently to prove your point? Or to, for example, we talk about it all the time in Discord and people ask, well, it's a split in this backfield. It's 2025. They're all splits. The years of 15 running backs with 300 plus carries are gone. We're lucky to get 1 or 2 or 3 players like that, right? So I like using the search tool on the website, but honestly, you could just do as simple as Google, put in Fantasy Guru. Don't put .com, just Fantasy Guru, one word, and the topic. Or sometimes, like if I've even put my last name in there because I'm trying to find an old article, right, before we had the search tool. Right. So I put my last name in there and the topic, and boom, next thing I know, I've got 3 URLs from the articles I wrote on that. So just a little tip.
What about in Discord? Let's get to it. The Discord.
Oh, Discord.
There's chaos in Discord. You know this.
There is always chaos in Discord.
There's chaos in Discord. And one of the chaoses in Discord is everyone's in their own bubble and they never pick their head up, right? It's like the goldfish that never looks up. So how do people look up? How do they find answers to questions that have already been answered in Discord?
I highly recommend doing this. You and I have talked about this at length over the last couple of years, but I highly recommend doing this as the season gets going, because I'll be frank, not everybody's going to get all their questions answered. And when you tag 4 of us, 5 of us, we're guilty of, someone else got this. This was from 8 hours ago. So-and-so has been on something. And sometimes I'll be frank with people. If it's not a good question and we're busy and there's a lot of questions in there, it may get skipped. We give no guarantees that we're there answering 100% of all questions. And if it's a repeat question, which happens a lot, it's tough. I mean, we can only repeat ourselves over and over so many times. Do it at the very top. You can go into each and every channel. You can search through all the channels. But at the top, there's a search. And when you search, whether you're on the computer or the phone, you can click a little like the 3 lines, the filter image, whatever you want to call it. And it'll bring up prompts, mentions from these types of things. So say you're curious what Ray was saying about Rashee Rice, or you want to know if Ray said anything about Rashee Rice. You could go into the the NFL seasonal channel, go at the top from, put Ray Flowers, because you want to see Ray Flowers comments. And then next you can search for a name. Rice, Rashee Rice, something like that. This is also why try to refrain from a lot of nicknames. Otherwise, when you go in there and search, search for the nicknames because people are really bad. Like right now, the young running back out of Washington, people are calling him Bill, Mr. Bill, Ja'Cory, JCM. I mean, we're getting all sorts of things, and we're guilty of it too. When we answer questions and we're trying to be quick and get through things, we may use shorthand, right? So be cognizant of that, but you can do little searches for that, and you'd be shocked. I've heard multiple people tell me, wow, that search feature is really slick. Like they just did it. They went to the NFL channel and just did a search for Rashee Rice. And man, not only did they see your comments, they saw my comments, they saw Armando's comments, they saw everyone else chiming in. There's a plethora of information. Where my frustration came from, Ray, when we were talking about this, we're both so old, we made our own data, right? Like, I mean, let's be honest. We went to newspapers, we went to box scores, we may have charted receptions, we may have charted yards. We didn't have easy access to targets. We didn't have easy access to target percentage of first read looks, none of this stuff, right? Now we have all this content out there, and people are like, I don't know, where do I go? How do I find it? What do I do? I hate to say this because I'm going to sound like a jerk. Y'all got to do some of your own homework and do some of your own legwork. Put some effort in. Use the search features. This is, you got to put some ownership on you. If you guys want good content from us and good quality answers being, questions being answered, you've got to handle the easy stuff on your own. In other words, do some looking. Maybe ask some other members if they've found an article that worked on a topic. When you start tagging us and we're going in there and we're trying to get you URLs and everything else, I hate to be sort of uppity here, but it's not a good use of our time, Ray. I try to illustrate this to people all the time. 2 hours in Discord is 2 hours we're not researching. It's 2 hours we're not digging into the raw data. It's 2 hours we're not writing or putting together videos. That takes away from the quality of content. And I understand everyone's like, oh, but those questions helped. You and I both know this, Ray. In 2 hours, we may have helped 10 people. Right? I mean, and it's been 10 specific different topics that maybe people search that'll be helpful for them. It's kind of like when people call into the radio shows. You can get a lot out of other people's questions if you're listening, if you're paying attention, if you're actively participating. Discord's the same way. And I feel like it gets lost how time consuming going through questions is. Like one of my biggest pet peeves, another easy one, or here's a quick one for you. There are no easy and quick questions. We live in a nuanced world with fantasy football. A quick, easy question is still 5 minutes, 6 minutes. They add up. So search, do some of your own digging. You might be shocked at how quickly you can get answers instead of waiting hours for us to respond.
Rich Maletto, fantasyguru.com. Again, he joins us most Wednesdays at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. He's always in Discord answering questions. He has mentioned on multiple times already the name Rashee Rice, and maybe he didn't see the news. So let's talk about that here, Rich. We finally know. We finally got an answer. Finally got some clarity. Good. Right now, of course, if you drafted yesterday, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, not so good. But the fact is, Rashee Rice, according to Tom Pelissero, has accepted and will serve a 6-game suspension to start the season, meaning that Rashee Rice will be out until week 7 against the Raiders. So talk to us. If you haven't drafted yet, this is the next question, right? What do I do with Rashee Rice? How do I look at him? And secondly, what does this offense in terms of pass catchers look like the first 6 weeks without Rashee Rice?
Well, part of me is kind of happy we got this figured out. Not part of me. I am. I'm happy we got this figured out because not knowing is we can't plan. We can't actively do anything on hopes, prayers, thoughts, right? Mm-hmm. If you're drafted now, yes, you have to bake in the fact that you're not going to have him for a third of the season. That's just the nature of the beast. So if you were drafting him, where was he going lately? Like round 5-ish, somewhere in that ballpark. He's probably going to slip to, 7, 8. If you could get him as a wide receiver 3 or 4, my gosh, you're going to be loving life because I'll be honest, Ray, I don't really care for the first 4 to 5 weeks of the season right now in the NFL. I joke that the real preseason is the first 3 to 4 weeks of the NFL season. We don't really start to get an idea of what we're dealing with or what the teams look like or anything until probably week 5 or 6. So from an NFL perspective, how many times do we take questions, Ray? People looking to drop people now, or because they didn't perform the first 2 to 3 weeks. And I'm done with this guy. What a wasted draft spot and this and that. Only that by the end of the year, man, they were, I'm with you. I hate the term league winner. Man, they were a league winner for me. Well, yeah, once you held on to them past week 10 because you were impatient through the first 6 weeks, even though you knew you were going to get zeros. So Dynasty, this does nothing in my opinion. Right. I think this is no different than if he got an injury early in the preseason or late in the preseason and missed the first part of the season. You weather the storm, you move on. For redraft, it's going to be tricky because come round, like I said, round 8, when people are looking at potential backups or depth, my gosh, he's a perfect depth piece, right? Someone in your drafts, though, is probably going to be like, I can use him as a wide receiver too, and I'll figure something out through the first 6 weeks. To your first question about who we target and who we're looking at, that's a really good question. Hollywood Brown is going to be healthy, hopefully. So hopefully we get a better look at what we expected from him last year before the injuries started piling up. I call him Mr. Drops, though. I think he's more the Tyreek Hill answer in this offense. We're hearing more about Patrick Mahomes pushing the ball down the field more. Well, when you've got people like Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown that are good at those two things, you do it. What does that really mean in the grand scheme of things? Maybe through the first month of the season, Ray, we see a lot more of Patrick Mahomes really pushing the ball down the field and Travis Kelce eating early on in the underneath stuff that we see maybe Rashee Rice getting later in the year as wear and tear wears on Kelce or defenses start, playing too high and kind of stopping the deep ball. The biggest question I got is, what about Jalen Royals? Do we see a little bit of a short-term flash with him? Does he get on the field more? I'm kind of shocked, given this news, kind of shocked the Chiefs didn't make a run at Amari Cooper, right? I would argue Amari Cooper would have been a nice little fill-in until Rice came back. They don't have a lot of players on this roster as far as the wide receivers go that really kind of fit and do what Rashee Rice does. Travis Kelce does. And beyond that, it's a lot of kind of a hodgepodge, right? I mean, they moved on from Sky Moore. I haven't seen, since I got up this morning, I haven't seen the final cut downs on the Chiefs roster. So I'd have to kind of nitpick through the receiver group. But I mean, you got Worthy, you got Royals, you've got Hollywood Brown. It's probably the first ones I'm looking at, to doctor up and honestly, again, all three of those players, they don't really overlap. Worthy and Brown maybe a little bit, but they're using Worthy in a completely different way than they use Hollywood. I think it's more of what is Andy Reid going to do creatively through the first month of the season to just kind of band-aid the fact that they don't have Rice. I would argue this is good for Rice owners in that if he was kind of dinged up, I understood he was supposedly 100% healthy from the injury. It was only an MCL. I don't know, Ray. Anytime there's these knee surgeries, I kind of dig getting a full 12 months off. So I don't mind this, right, that, we might get a really, truly 100% healthy Rashee Rice come week 7 against the Raiders.
Rich Maletto, fantasyguru.com. That's a good point, and I agree. Don't have to worry about his health. And if we are worrying about his health at this point, we got even huger issues. Let's continue to talk about the wide receiver position, Rich. And I know you hate this, so I won't belabor the point, but you don't like making moves because of rumors. You don't like making moves because of something that could happen. I totally agree with you. I've said it a bazillion times myself. Two things that are going on here. But what about Jakobi Meyers? If the Raiders trade Jakobi Meyers, they're giving up. Like I said this earlier this week. There's no scenario to me where they give up Jakobi Meyers. If they do trade Jakobi Meyers, someone asked me this earlier today. If they do trade Jakobi Meyers, where's he going to go where he's going to have a better outlook? He's catching 85 passes with the Raiders. He's not going somewhere else and catching 100. So moving to another team doesn't help him fantasy-wise. But we do have Amari Cooper here. And in theory, Cooper, Meyers, and Bowers, that could be pretty solid as a trio for Geno Smith. So really, what's the outlook for Amari Cooper, who's now back in our lives after being nowhere for the last 5 months?
I think it's a little bit more much to do about nothing. I don't know. I look at when he went with the Bills, and that's an offense where it's a MVP level quarterback. They put up points, they move the ball, and he was just kind of an auxiliary factor, right? Not much of a big deal. And he's getting up there in age. I agree with you. I don't know why Jacoby's pushing this angle. And the weird thing is most players love playing for Pete Carroll. So I don't know where all this is stemming from, unless maybe he hates Geno. I don't know. I mean,
right.
I understand. Look, we see each other's content, right? Especially in Discord or whatnot. Not everything, but we have an idea of where a lot of us on staff, how we feel and sit. You and I aren't the biggest Geno Smith fans, but
right.
I'd rather have Geno Smith than Spencer Rattler at this point.
Yeah.
And I kind of had hopes for Rattler coming out, but I mean, the fact I was a little shocked that he was named the starter. Looking back, shouldn't be overly shocked because 26-year-old rookie, he's still a rookie, right? And if pushing the ball downfield only gets you so far. And if the team's going to suck, why force a guy out there if you actually truly have hopes on his success? But I don't know, because I don't know that there's a ton of passing volume. I mean, I look at Pete Carroll offenses in the past, and let's be honest, Ray, they're frustrating from a wide receiver ownership standpoint.
Right.
I mean, we could talk about Tyler Lockett and his boom bust history, and hey, he's fun to watch. He's a great NFL asset from a fantasy standpoint. He looks like he's a great wide receiver too over the years, but frankly, you got 4 or 5 weeks of him producing for you and otherwise not much. DK Metcalf always just kind of not quite there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, there's a prime example. DK never really pushed to leave until Pete Carroll left. So I don't understand this Jakobi Meyers angle here. And I'm with you. I hate to break it to you, Mr. Myers. Go to Pittsburgh. I don't know that that's going to help you. I mean, just come out right and say, this is where I want to be, and here's why. I could see that being an okay spot for him, but some of this stuff, Ray, I think it's humans. Greed, selfishness. I'm not going to get the ball as much. Geno's not going to throw enough volume. I don't know where Myers thinks he's going to go. I'm with you. I mean, in all fairness, from an NFL standpoint, there's some options here, right? I mean, the biggest takeaway I would have from this is let's temper expectations on Bowers, because I think we got spoiled with Bowers' excessively high volume because there was nothing else there. Now there's stuff there. So I think it's fair to assume Bowers sees, 8 to 12% less targets.
Rich Maletto of fantasyguru.com. We had another trade. Now, this name's already come up a bunch of times. We've talked about this name for a long time. He's going back to his former team, which is good news. Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen, I think, is 35. How old is Adam Thielen? He's in his 30s, maybe 30. He's old.
Yeah, I was going to say he's old. I mean, I will be right.
Yeah, he can catch passes, get a first down. I'm not saying he won't be involved with the Vikings. He's a really nice addition for the Vikings offense. He's a really nice addition for J.J. McCarthy. But is there any standalone value? Because you know how this goes. He's going to start getting drafted. He's going to start moving up draft boards. To me, it's like, good for the team, but I don't really see it in the fantasy space.
Look, I'm an ageist, Ray. I wasn't drafting him at all. I mean, there's a few people, and I get people get upset, hey, man, it costs, anyone's worth it. That's fair. But I don't like having players on my team I don't want. Joe Mixon, completely off the board. He's been off the board for me for the last month. When I was at the expo, the injury guys were talking about his injury and what it was. Scared me off completely. Foot injuries, aging RB, done. I'm out. I don't want any action on it, so I just cut my ties and I'm out. Right. It's the same way with Thielen. Okay, if anything, does this help them because Naylor's hurt and Addison's out the first 3 weeks? Are they just trying to do all they can to make sure? Because let's be honest, Brian Flores is back with a defense that should be even better than it's been. I've been beating this drum since he was there. I said the first year it's going to improve dramatically from the bottom, literally the bottom 2 or 3 defenses to he would be mid-pack or better. That came true, and it's only going to get better. This Brian Flores got a head coaching job because he knows how to coach defenses, and that's what he's doing. So I think the defense is going to be solid. I like what they did. I am high on McCarthy. I don't think the Vikings move on from Sam Darnold with the success he had last year if they don't have confidence in McCarthy. And the irony is the guy behind him, Sam Howell, from a fantasy standpoint, the guy just chucks the rock. So, I mean, if you got McCarthy and it's a deep roster and bench, go get yourself Howell, and one of them's going to score. I think our expectations for McCarthy should be on par with what Darnold did last year. Top 10-ish QB, somewhere in that ballpark, probably efficient. You still have Justin Jefferson, Addison, and Naylor to throw to. And, oh, by the way, Hawkinson fully healthy. You brought in Jordan Mason to give you a little more depth at running back. And let's not forget, Cam Akers actually did okay in this offense with Aaron Jones last year. I think the Vikings want to make a push for the playoffs and the Super Bowl. I think that's their exact plan. And it's funny to me because remember Thielen when he went to the Panthers, I really think we can win a Super Bowl here. Remember that whole speech and everything? So maybe this is him going, all right, this was never going to work in Carolina. I've got an opportunity to end it in Minnesota on a high note, right? I'm with you. NFL move, great. I think this is probably smart for the Vikings, a little veteran leadership. But what does Thielen go from wide receiver 2 in the offense to a wide receiver 3 or 4 now? Because he's going to be behind Addison at this point, right? So, you know, fine, but I'm not drafting him at all, Ray. I just see no. I'd rather take it. You know, someone mentioned Tesla in the chat over here. I'd much rather take a shot on Tesla at the same spot than I would draft Thielen.
Yeah, getting 9 points a week, you know, it's just not going to do anything for you. No. What about the situation with the other side here, Rich? The leftovers in Carolina. They must love what they see out of Ted McMillan, right? So he's obviously the number one here.
True.
You've got Coker and Xavier Legette, who I guess are 2-3 now or 3-2 now. What do we think? This is not a wide open offense, but Young did show improvement after the benching last season. We do like the coaching staff here. They're obviously, you know, Thielen with this team was going to see 6, 7, 8 targets a week. That's now available. Talk us through McMillan, Legette, and Coker.
Well, like you said, I think you hit it best. Actions speak louder than words. The actions scream. Well, they're in on Tet. T-Mac, you're in for a heavy workload, buddy. I think is what that screams. You know, Coker's flashed. He's not my prototypical receiver to target. He's a little small, but you know what? A lot of these teams are using kind of these slight built secondary, third receivers, and it's working well. You know, think Waddle, think Devonta Smith, that sort of thing. Coker flashes. The challenge is, I'm fine with him for like a best ball format, but boy, he is tough to trust in a head-to-head as you set your lineup type format. I'll be honest, Ray, I don't know what to do with Legette. I was higher on Legette coming out. I had high hopes. Mm-hmm. He completely disappointed me last year. Now, he is a bigger-bodied guy. He is kind of in that Deebo Samuel mold, right, where you can get him in space and let him – he'll even truck some guys, right? So maybe they have more – ideas of what they want to do with Legette, and they just felt like their receiver room was crowded and there was no need to have an aging vet there. I don't know. I'm with you on T-Mac. I don't know. I mean, I get Legette as maybe a dart throw, sure, but I tell you what, I think T-Mac's probably the only real option. Other than I do have some hopes for Javion Sanders. He has impressed me at times at the tight end position. Now, how much Bryce Young uses the tight end, I don't know. They've really kind of mixed it up with Tommy Tremble there as well, but I believe Trimble's still knocked up or dinged up a little bit.
Not knocked up.
So,
that'd
not
be
knocked up, but that would be weird. Dinged up a little bit, but I have some hope for Sanders. So maybe Sanders is kind of a sleeper tight end option, but I'm with you on T-Mac. Otherwise, wide receiver 4s in our fantasy lineups as dart throws. Maybe. I think I'd probably have some other targets I'd choose first, but we could do worse.
Rich Maletto of fantasyguru.com joined us every Wednesday at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. For those people watching the show here live, you see a couple of Browns jerseys over your shoulders. One of those is Nick Chubb. So let's ask you, you're a Browns fan, or at least a Nick Chubb. Oh, you're a Browns fan. What's going on in this backfield? This is a question that keeps coming up and up. Judkins still hasn't officially signed. We're hearing potential suspension. Sampson's there. You know, Ford's there. You know, people, are we still drafting Judkins? Is it all, to the moon? And I have said this kindly, like, there are just some situations I'm just not in on. I'm just out on the Browns offense. I'm just out. And we'll, you know, DFS, best ball, like you talk, but seasonal, I'm just out. So I don't really care what happens with the backfield because I'm really not interested in it because I don't know. How do you see it?
That's fair. I'm not really interested either. There's questions at the O-line. There's questions at the quarterback spot. I'd rather be pleasantly surprised and watch Flacco get back to his old form and Jerry Jeudy perform and Njoku perform, and maybe it opens things up. Here's the reality of the backfield, though. And I keep hammering this, and I know people that are listening probably are sick of it, and others are just want to argue with me. How much did we gripe that Nick Chubb didn't get enough volume, especially when Kareem Hunt was there? Like, I distinctly remember people whining about the lack of volume for Nick Chubb. He's not used in the passing game, et cetera, et cetera. This is the same coaching staff, okay? So when you take two running backs like they did, where they did in the draft, I think it was very clear that they were looking for a tandem approach. This idea that Judkins was going to be Nick Chubb, I think, was a farce to begin with, because he's not as good as Nick Chubb from a running back perspective. And I think the other part of it was, if Nick Chubb, who is better, wasn't getting 80% of the volume, why would Judkins get 80% of the volume? I think the plan was always to have a Judkins-Sampson kind of tandem, like we saw with Judkins and Henderson in college. I think that's really kind of what the Browns wanted. So I think Judkins was getting overdrafted to begin with. Now, here's the deal. The Browns will not do anything with Judkins' contract until the NFL finishes investigation. I don't know when the NFL is going to finish this investigation, Ray. I have no idea. It could be the end of this month. It could be into September. It could be October. We have no idea. There is no information on this. So, one, he's not under contract and won't be till we get some clarity from the NFL that they've done their investigation. Then we won't know, is there a suspension? There very well could be a suspension. There's talk of one. Now, I don't know how likely that is when the whole case was dismissed. But again, the NFL is going to do its own personal investigation. You know, Zeke Elliott didn't get charged with anything, and the NFL threw the book at him for, what was it, 4 games, 3 games, 5 games, whatever it was a few years ago. So they could do the same here. So here's the thing. Questions at the O-line spot, questions about the workload. Don't even have them under contract. I don't know why you'd even mess around with it. And I see people drafting Judkins on a hope and a prayer. I just can't do that. I'm not the type to do that. I'm not the type to do that with injuries. You know, Rashee Rice, we know, is going to come back, and he should be healthy, and he should be in a good offense, and he should see a lot of volume. This is totally different. These aren't shoulds. These are maybes. We don't know. I'll take a shot with Sampson, because when you use the draft capital like that, you're going to use him. But don't expect much from the first month and a half of the season. He's been bad in pass pro. He's not really the same size in the, you know, early down thumper that they were hoping to get with Judkins. Neither is Jerome Ford, for that matter. So I expect to see Pierre Strong, Jerome Ford, and Sampson all getting used here, at least at the start of the season. I mean, Pierre Strong's flashed at times in this offense. He's been there. He's stayed there. Ford's been kind of the same way. And Sampson's cut from a similar cloth. So fine, take your shot on Sampson. But if you're chasing Judkins, I don't know what to tell you. And I'm with you, Ray. I just don't know if it's worth the headache. Like, why are we going to fight this headache for the whole year when, man, there's plenty of other opportunities to chase in other backfields?
Rich Maletto of fantasyguru.com. For more information from Rich, hit him up in Discord. Follow the rules. Use the search tab and all that kind of good stuff. Rich is in there all the time. He joins us on Wednesday. Again, Justin Fensterman should be back next Wednesday. So it should be Rich and Justin, even though, as Rich has admitted here, he much prefers to talk to me. Sorry, Justin. But we enjoyed having you on here, Rich. Thanks for all the hard work you do. Thanks for all the interest, all the strong work you do. And you mentioned, slip of tongue a little bit earlier, NASCAR. Remind the folks that you do that as well.
Yes. Mark Hogan, Sean Engel, and I, we head up over there, the NASCAR stuff. We've got, I'm not on it right now just because of the work schedule, but Mark and Sean have been holding down the fort on the podcast, Race Guru Thunder Hour. We were on a big hot streak a few weeks ago. It's cooled a little bit, but I do know there's been multiple people in our Discord chat over there that have said, hey, they've increased their bankroll for football, so they're really excited about that from a DFS standpoint. Love to talk racing. The fun thing about racing is even the short odds are kind of long shots by everyone else's standards, right? Like we have no problem going after bets are plus 120, plus 150 and feeling confident about them, you know, chasing top 10s, top 5s, that sort of thing, and hitting on a fairly regular basis. You know, you don't get odds like that in many other sports on a regular weekly thing. So that's kind of fun. And I want to give a shout out to Hal. I see his question there, Ray.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, about starting a conversation. You can try to start a conversation with us in Discord. Feel free to tag us. We can't promise that we're going to sit there and be a sounding board for everybody's for everything. But if you've got a good question and you want to discuss it, tag us. As Ray said, though, when you tag multiple of us and you crowdsource, you may or may not get. You may or may not get the interactions you're hoping for. And like I said, just keep in mind that, I understand people are like, oh, this conversation really helped. There's a couple of times I've had some longer conversations in there, but that's not really what Discord's about. If you really want things thought out, hey, chop on the roster coach. Post a question
or here
in there.
Too on the show. We can do it here too.
Or fans, yeah. Fantasy Daily. These are the places to bring up these questions, because we can actually talk through them a little bit more with you. And if something needs to be followed up, you can comment. On Discord, I'll be frank, as the season starts, it's nothing for us to go in there and have, I don't know about you, Ray, but it's common for me to, throughout the day, have 10, 20 questions at a time. And that happens multiple times throughout the day, right? So even at 2 minutes a question, all of a sudden, every day, people are expecting 3 hours of time in there, and that's just not feasible. So keep that in mind. If you're looking to start a conversation, just keep in mind, time constraints and all that goes into it.
Yeah, and that live stream is every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. That's part of the package over at fantasyguru.com. Get signed up. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. I know a lot of you are kind of crunching the data here. You're tight. You got to draft in 2 days or something like that. We are available to answer your questions in Discord. We've got this show from 12 to 1 Eastern, Monday through Friday. We've got the Elite Sports Show with Jeff Mans from 2 to 5 Eastern, Monday through Friday on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. I'm with Jeff on Wednesdays, so I'll be with him today. We've got articles coming out every day. We've got PPR rankings, non-PPR rankings, dynasty rankings, best ball rankings, rookie rankings, half-point PPR rankings, superflex rankings, IDP rankings. It's all over there at fantasyguru.com. So click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. Send a note to support at fantasyguru.com. If you got any questions, hey, I want to see Rich's work. Hey, I want to see Ray's work. Send a note to support at fantasyguru.com and use that search tab over at the website. Rich, thank you for your visit today. We appreciate it. We'll see you here again a week from now with Justin. Until then, have a great week and a great weekend.
Thanks. You too, Ray. Always a pleasure, man.
You got it. He's Rich Maletto, one of the hardest working guys out there. So be nice to him in Discord. He deserves it. For Rich, I'm Ray. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com. Have a great Wednesday. We'll talk to you on Thursday.